NBA season is not so fucking close. I can taste it. I don't give a fuck about Halloween. I'm trying to suit up like my favorite NBA player. But anyways, I'm going to talk about some interesting rule changes I think that should happen. Let's get into it. Hey, yo, it's your boy Eyeso Plays. Typical YouTube shit. Like and subscribe. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Recently, the NBA came out and they were talking about the official rule changes they were going to have coming up with this year. It's relatively minor, but also major, depending on how you look at it. But basically, they're going to be looking into more of players drawing fouls and whether it's an offensive foul through an unnatural shooting movement. I'm sure you've seen it with Trey, Luka, Harden, where like they do the weird pump fake and they jump into him. That's like the main thing they're trying to go against. And they're saying they're going to try to combat it. We'll see. I think there's going to be an uptick in, fouls called early on in the season. But it's going to be hard for refs to judge because they're still premier players and you want to give them their stats, but you don't want to feed into that bad stat. But anyways, it got me thinking, what other rules should we try to change? Anytime the NBA decides to change a rule, a lot of it is for the enjoyment of the game. Like, yes, they want to keep it to the purest of basketball standards, but they also want it to be an entertaining game. And that's why you've seen recently a lot of rules that favor the offensive player, because it's nice, it's sexy when you see a player drop 40, 50 a night. Well, I'm going to start off with some pretty basic ones that have already been floated around. They seem like they're the most realistic. So first off, the obvious one. Everyone's talking about like, oh, let's add a 4-point shot line. And it's been debated whether it should be just, another line that extends or if it should just be certain spots that are like circles or whatever. And I'm going to let y'all know now, I am not a big fan of this one. Because don't get me wrong, I love, the crazy deep, shot threes. But once you make it a 4-point shot, then it pretty much makes the 2-point shot just dead. Like, if you're not getting a straight dunk or, like, fast break layup, like, why are you not shooting the 4-point? Like, it's worth double. And I just think it fundamentally changes how the game's approached. And then, again, it factors in. And, of course, the NBA, they're going to factor this in a little. But at the end of the day, they're going for the entertainment. Like, can you imagine the stats played, like, points per game? If someone's solely shooting 4-pointers over, like, being a, low post center sort of player, they're going to have double the opportunity. They could literally have half the efficiency, but because the points are worth double, that they're going to look just as good as someone who dedicated their whole life in the post. And, like, I don't know. That just goes away from the core of the game. I think it's very risky. I don't mind if it's in an all-star game or the 3-point contest or whatever. But in the official game, I'm not a big fan of that one. One that I'm more in favor of is, so internationally, if y'all didn't know, when the basket or when you shoot the ball, if it hits off the rim and it extends in the air, you can swat it out. In normal NBA rules, that's a goaltend. But in international rules, once it hits the rim at least once, you can then swat it out, and it's not a goaltend. I'm a big fan of that becoming a thing in the NBA. I think it would make for more entertaining plays. You're not going to have that Kawhi Leonard bounces off the rim 7 times. Don't get me wrong, that was a phenomenal, iconic shot. But it's also such a lame way for someone to make shit. Like, I would love just an athletic dude to be like, nah, motherfucker. Like, I don't know. That's just way better in my opinion. So I am not opposed to that rule happening. Some college rules that I think would be cool in the NBA. So I believe in college how it goes is when there's a unclear out of bounds, like the ball, it's not very obvious. The biggest thing I hate in the NBA is they'll fucking stop the clock. It'll be a whole 5-minute break where they're trying to analyze who the ball tipped off last, and it fucking takes forever. In college, where they just have is whoever the home team is, when it's an unclear out of bounds, they get it the first time. If it happens again, then the away team gets it, and it just alternates. Like, yeah, you could argue, like, oh, you're leaving shit up to chance, but it just streamlines the game. And again, like I said, in the NBA, if you're going to change a rule, it should be for viewer, entertainment. And I think it's important that we just streamline shit, because nothing's worse than when it's a clinch time game. It's so close. There's 2 minutes left in the game, and then you're waiting 20 fucking minutes while they analyze who fucking fingertip hit it last. So, yeah, there's some luck that plays into it, but let's be real, in any sport, luck plays into shit. Another rule that is in college that I think would be really interesting in the NBA is the 1-and-1 on free throws. And what that means is if it's not a direct shooting foul, like say you're just in the bonus or something like that, and you are going up for your free throw, you have to make your first one to shoot the second. If you miss the first, it's just whoever gets the rebound, you continue the play. I fuck with that. Let's make it to where you're not shooting free throws unless you are fucking trying to shoot. I'm all for that. So I'm not against that at all. So I don't know. Those are some of the rules I think, international or collegiate, that I think the NBA could adopt. And I think it would help. Iceberg Killer, Philly Flav. You might know him from the Good Day Gang podcast. But he suggested, and I think it's very interesting, I adapted a little, but he talked about how, so in hockey, when they go into overtime, they use less players. So I don't think it should be in the first overtime, but if it goes into double OT or triple or anything beyond that, I'm for it, where they just have 3-on-3. So you eliminate 2 players, you just have your 3 best or your 3 best starting lineup, whatever cohesion you have. I don't know, it'd add a little interesting flair. You're going to have some more star power out there probably. Some other players can rest, so you could have some crazy, strategic, unexpectancies. I don't know. I'm definitely for that. I don't know. I like adding some hockey rules into the NBA. I think it would be very interesting. I personally would rather only go into, double OT or further, though, because I still like the basic OT. And again, it would fuck with stats as far as, minutes played and points and yada yada. But again, we're going on this purely entertainment. I don't know. It would be interesting as fuck to have a 3-on-3. Could you imagine Curry, Thompson, Draymond versus LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love? Just those 3-on-3 in overtime. Fuck all those role players who are going to fuck up JR and think the shot clock's done. No, just have the stars out. I think that's pretty interesting. Now, the next one. So this is where we start to get to the wilder, where I really don't think these ever could happen, but I think they would be so interesting. And this is the most serious one I could think of. So I'm thinking, so you know how in a lot of European games, especially soccer and whatnot, yeah, winning is the overall goal, but there's a point differential and it goes into your tournament bracket. So what I mean by that is, so say a team wins, but it's under 10 points, they just win. But say then they beat the team by 20 points, they get an extra point. And then they beat the team by 30 points, they get 2 points, and et cetera, whatever you wanted it to go to. I would love so they still did it the same, where the top 8 teams, in each, and it would be weird because I know they've implemented the play and I'm ignoring that for this whole scenario. But so the top 8 teams, in each conference as far as record, they make the playoffs. But then, especially in the Western, it's been seen where the team that's number 3 and the team that's number 7 is differentiated by 3 games. So then if you incorporated how many point differential, how many times did they beat a team by 30 points, or how many times did they, just have close games, and you add those points together. And if that determined the actual seeding number, I think that would help the NBA tremendously. Say a team, they're 55 and 30 or something like that. And so they have a really good record, but they're very close with another team. They need to blow out a team that's shitty that they're playing in the last game if they want that higher seeding. I think that would help the NBA, because you see a lot towards the end of a season, once a team's locked in a top playoff spot, they just send out their scrubs and they don't care. And it kind of sucks, as an NBA fan, you still want to go see these teams play, but when the star players aren't going to play because the seeding's decided. But if you incorporated if we blow this team out by 30 instead of 20, we can jump a seed. Now you have star players playing in the very last game of the season. It would be very wonky. I don't know exactly how the numbers would go. I'm no mathematician. I'm just saying, I think it would be a very interesting thing that would help like solve the annual like lull at the end of the season, you know, where if a team isn't neck and neck just for the exact number in the playoff ranking, like, and again, I think it would just help motivate teams to be like, oh, we're down 20, but we'd rather only lose 2 points than 3 points and then still play some starters. We would have just way less blowout games. So like, I know it's not super realistic, but also it's my most idealistic. I think it would help a lot in the NBA. This is where we start to have some fun. This is where I'm going to suggest rules that I don't really see as actually feasible, but would still be so entertaining. The first rule, I think, is that if a player yells out Kobe while shooting a fadeaway and they make it, they get an extra point. But if they miss it, they immediately have to be subbed out of the game. So I'm just saying, think about that. Like, you're in the third quarter, you're down 12 points, you got Curry in there, and he's just fucking piping hot. He just drilled a couple shots, and he gets an open shot, and he just goes, Kobe! But here's the thing, you have to fade. You can't just shoot a normal shot, because that's too easy. No, even if you're wide open, you gotta fade. And if he yells Kobe, that three-pointer is 4 points, and he stays in. But if he misses, bam, he's out the rest of the third quarter. It's a risky gamble. But I don't know. I think it would add a lot of entertainment. And it would be hard because, yeah, you would have to track, and they could be like, oh, I didn't say Kobe. I said Moby, because I've been, you know, reading Moby Dick or whatever. So I know it's not very feasible, and maybe it would have to be a more, but it's just iconic to say Kobe. So I definitely think that should be a rule. Next one. I think if you get dunked on or you just get viciously swatted, like they swat it, they grab the ball, or they fucking throw it into like the fifth, you know, round of the stands. If you don't perform a revenge play where like you get a steal or you know, do a reverse play on them, at the end of the game, you got to give them your shoes. I'm just saying, could you imagine, like, if that was a stat collected, like, oh, LeBron owns 37 players' shoes, but Kevin Durant owns 25, and 2 of them are from players that are all-stars. Like, I don't know, it'd be like a bones collector sort of fucking thing. And also, it would just motivate players so much. Like, you get dunked on, like, oh, hell nah. Now you got to play hard as fuck the rest of the game to try to fucking earn your shoes back. Because nothing's more humiliating than having to take your fucking, you know, shoes off and just, like, hand them to another man. Because we would make it a whole public thing. We'd have dramatic music playing. Like, I don't know. It would be rough, but I'd love some shit like that. All right, and so this one, like, I would like it to be seriously incorporated in a different way than what I'm suggesting, because I don't know what's the right solution, but it needs to happen. But we need to make, during the All-Star game, the three-point contest and the dunk contest fucking actually matter in the regular season. So my idea is something like, if you win the three-point contest or you win the dunk contest, you get like a Jeopardy, like, shout out, like, sort of fucking thing in one regular season game. So say, like, for example, the dunk contest, if you win that, you get one challenge on a ref call on a, you know, pivotal play or whatever. Like, they called the ball for the other team, where you're allowed to choose your best dunker, presumably the guy who won the dunk contest, because that would be the team that gets that award. They pick their player. The other team can pick whatever defender they want. And then if your player can make the dunk on that other player, they get the call in their favor. And then for the three-point contest guy, like if there was a debate on a shot or whatever, if the guy makes a three-point shot, ball don't lie, they get the points. Or like something. But they only get it for one time. It's like a one time in one game. They have to use it in the regular season. They can't use it in the postseason. I don't know, something like that. Like, I know that's not like the direct answer, but there needs to be an actual reward other than just like money or something, so we can get star players. Like, why the fuck has LeBron not been in a dunk contest? That's just dumb. We need to give that motherfucker an incentive to be in the bitch. And the only way that's gonna happen is through like in-game incentive, because they're making fucking millions of dollars. Like, that ain't gonna mean shit to them. You got to give them an in-game incentive. And maybe that's not it, but I don't know. That's just my initial idea. And the very last thing, and I feel this should just be agreed upon, everyone. This isn't even a joke. Bring back the fucking ninja headbands. Why the fuck is the NBA being such a bitch? Like, oh, it's unprofessional. Like, I'm sorry. Once you let AI into the fucking league and you allow players to have fashion, like, how is the ninja headband hurting anybody? Nah, y'all just being some fucking hoes. We all know when we playing 2K, we stunting these motherfuckers out. They riding scooters to the court in whatever fucking hairdo they got going on. Just give the motherfuckers the ninja headbands back. We all loved them. That's all I gotta say. I'm Eyeso Plays. Good day, gang. Love y'all. I'm out. Yes! Bring back the ninja headband. Bring back the ninja. Sign my petition. I don't want to become one of those guys who's played out and has 12 billion Ben Simmons videos. I'll do one whenever he eventually does get traded. But I do have to talk about, I have so much more respect for Joel Embiid, because he basically came out and called Ben Simmons out on his bullshit. Because apparently it's been leaked from Ben Simmons' camp that he feels him and Embiid's run has done its course and that they just don't gel together and the team doesn't work. And Embiid basically called bullshit and was like, it was borderline disrespectful. And I disagree. It's not borderline. It's straight disrespectful. Because Embiid pointed out how they signed Al Horford because they needed a stretch five. So when Embiid's not out there, Simmons, you know, can run the floor because there's not another center. He brought up how they let Jimmy Butler go because Ben Simmons needed the ball in his hand. And the only thing I'll say with that, I call it little cap in the sense that Jimmy Butler basically came out and said how he didn't want to resign because front office management didn't seem to have a clear plan, leadership, like they would watch film together and they wouldn't even discuss shit. So I think Jimmy was gone regardless, but I see what they're saying in the sense that like they let him go because it was clear in the playoffs that Jimmy Butler is the best with his ball in the hand, with his hand on the ball, but Ben Simmons, if he doesn't have his hands on the ball, he's purely ineffective. So yeah, Ben Simmons is right in a sense, but for him to like diss on Philadelphia for not trying to build a team around his weaknesses is disrespectful as fuck. And I will say it's interesting. Today, they withheld $8 million that was supposed to be owed to him because he didn't show up for training camp. And basically, I guess the way they're doing it is they're holding the check. If he shows up, he gets the check. However, for every game he misses, he gets like, I don't know the exact number. It's like $240,000, maybe a little bit more than that. Basically $250,000 every game he doesn't play, he loses. And they're just going to pull that from that $8 million. And whenever he does decide to show up, if he ever does, any of that money pulled, he ain't getting shit of it. But everything else he'll get. So they're calling his bluff, but he seems very confident. I'm tired of it. It's played out, but we got to mention it because this is unprecedented. Who knows what this is going to happen the next time they have a union meeting? Because I imagine owners aren't happy with it. Hopefully it's just an outlier because I don't know. It's not the best look for the whole overall league. And the Sixers are going to have to figure shit out.